Welcome to the City Manager's Report. The City Manager's Report is your preview of the next Oshkosh Common Council meeting agenda.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us on your City Manager's Report. I'm your host, Emily Mikowski, and this is the show that we talk about some great hot topics happening in your city of Oshkosh, as well as a little bit of a preview of the City Council meeting agenda. I'm joined today by Assistant City Manager John Fitzpatrick, standing in for City Manager Mark Rohloff today. So, John, thank you so much for joining us today and filling in.
Thanks for having me, Emily.
Yes, it's been a little while. We were saying before the show that we had you on the show.
Right.
So.
I don't think I've sat in for a while, but I'm glad to be here.
And the first show of 2016 as well. So it's going to be a great kickoff for the season here. For the year, and we've got plenty to talk about. So we're going to go ahead and dive into the first half of the show with some hot topics, take a little break, and then we will return with a review of the council meeting agenda for next Tuesday. So, John, first thing that we want to talk about is a big news item here in Oshkosh is snow. We finally got some snow.
That's right. Yes. Yeah, and we got a lot of it, too.
Yeah, some of us are a little more happy about it than others, but a big topic of conversation was snow removal here in the city.
It always is an issue that we have to deal with, and I personally like the snow. I don't like the cold as much, but I was glad to see it, but it was very heavy. It was very heavy, very wet, and we got a lot of it in a short period of time, which made cleanup a little more challenging.
Yeah, and so maybe you can kind of walk us through the process, because a lot of times people forget that there is a rhyme and reason to how streets are plowed and what order they're plowed in.
Sure. It depends on what type of snowfall we have in terms of when we actually have our drivers go out and start the plowing process and salting process. So that kind of varies depending upon the conditions, and our supervisors assess that and make determinations and make changes all the time. So that's kind of the initial stage of the plowing and snow removal. But then once they make a decision, we do have a process where we focus on the main arterials first, and we try to keep those clear because that's where a majority of the traffic actually exists.
So those heavy traffic streets,
heavily
those are
traveled areas,
the main focus.
Absolutely, and then as we are able to create a passable or positive conditions in those areas, then we move on to more of the secondary streets and then more of the residential streets. So I know people are anxious to have their street plowed, but we really need to focus on those areas to create the safe conditions first, not only for the traveling public, but also so we can respond if there were an emergency situation, if we need to have police or fire or our ambulance services be able to respond in a quick and efficient manner. So there really is a methodology and a thought process to how we go forward with it.
And I think it's important to remember, every snowfall is different. So in the case of a major storm like the one that we just had last week, I think it was, sometimes the main focus are those arterial streets. And so they're going to keep plowing those so that those are consistently maintained and may not even get to the residentials until the storm has passed.
And you're exactly right. And there is really a sequence, and there's a process even when they're doing those streets. And each snowfall is unique. I can just relate in regard to this specific snowfall. I know that we had some difficulty even with our large snow trucks with some slippage. And because they were in the process of plowing and the snow was so heavy and wet, and they were trying to push that snow after their salting, which they have salt boxes on the back of the trucks, after those boxes were depleted, the back of those trucks became lighter. So pushing that snow made it much more difficult and kind of tended to have those back wheels slip and spin a little bit more because the weight of the salt was not there anymore to help balance the truck. So
even the kind of snow has an effect.
Even the snowplows can get stuck and get a little slippery at times too. And then after that, there's a process whereby they go through, after they've gone through all the streets, then they go through and do snow removal. When they're even plowing, and we'll see this eventually as we get into the deeper parts of winter, if we have larger banks, they may do things like cut the banks so they can kind of step the snow banks a little bit. it makes it challenging too if we have narrow terraces. We try not to throw the snow on people's sidewalk after they work so hard to get that all blown, and then the truck comes through and then fills it all up again. We try to avoid that. Sometimes it's not possible because of the narrow terrace, but we do employ strategies to try to minimize that if we can.
Yes, so there's a lot that goes into the snow removal process. If you're interested in learning more about that process, you can go to the city website under the Public Works Department's page. They actually have some maps on there as well that show the order of the streets that they plow, and then as well as some other things like snow removal guidelines and some codes. So that's another thing that we wanted to mention for our viewers today is snow clearing requirements for clearing your sidewalks even. Yes.
The requirements established are we have to have sidewalks cleared within 24 hours after the snowfall has stopped. And then, as we talked about with being aware of our emergency response folks, we don't want to cover any fire hydrants. We also don't want to throw any snow in the street and make any conditions worse than they are. So those are some key elements to keep in mind.
To avoid a little fine.
Absolutely.
In case the city needs to be doing that for you.
And also, too, we also have people call us and inquire as to, why are we hauling snow? What's the purpose behind that? And sometimes when we get so much snow, it's difficult to even plow any more of it, or the banks become so high that there's no place to go with the snow. So our folks are working, around the clock sometimes, and they'll be hauling the snow, especially like, for example, in the downtown area. They'll collect the snow, they'll put it in trucks, they'll haul it out of those areas, so we have space then for the next snowstorms so we can push that snow and remove it from the street. So it's kind of an interesting process.
It really is.
But there's a lot involved, and we just appreciate the citizens' patience with all of those procedures.
Yes. Another procedure that the city is getting started on, we're just at the tail end of the first week of Christmas tree removal. So if you have a live Christmas tree, you can put that out on your curb on garbage day during the weeks of January 4th to the 8th. We're at the end of that week, and then again during the 18th to the 22nd. So a little bit of a guideline for your trees: they cannot be buried in snow. So if you do put it out and it ends up snowing, make sure you get out there and brush that off. They need to be removed from any plastic bags, have all the decorations and tree stands removed. You don't want to forget any ornaments or sparkling lights or anything like that on your tree. So leave that out on your garbage collection day from the week of the 18th to the 22nd. You can also drop them off at the yard waste collection site. The hours are here up on screen, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. They are closed on the weekends and holidays, and you do need a permit to drop those off at the yard waste site, which you can get at City Hall.
Sure.
So a lot of great updates with our first snow, and the holidays are now over. And another update that we're moving into the springtime here is elections. We just passed the deadline for people who are interested in running for council for filing their papers, and it looks like there's not going to be a primary election for council.
Right, that's my understanding. I think that we had some individuals file, and I believe there's 3 seats that might be up this time. Is that right, Emily?
Correct.
So we'll see how that goes, and we encourage people to participate in the process, and it'll be here before we know it.
Yes, so we've got the primary for the other elections outside of council is February 16th. The big spring election is on April 5th. You can go to the city website for more information on elections to find out where your polling place will be and how to register and everything. So just visit the city website for that great information. One other plug that we want to get out here, it is after December. It's now January in 2016, but we are still airing the City Manager's Report Top 10. There were so many awesome things that we did, John, last year in 2015. So we're going to be airing that throughout the month of January.
That's good. No, I think, we're very proud of that, and we hope the citizens are proud too. It's, we take great pride in all the work that we do. The employees certainly do, but we couldn't do it without their assistance, without their suggestions, without their participation on boards and commissions, and our work in cooperation with our elected officials. They really, I think, do an excellent job setting the standard, establishing our strategic plan so we can move forward and accomplish all these things. So it's gratifying to put those goals out there and then be able to achieve them.
Yes, yes. So the CMR Top 10 episode will be airing on City Cable 10. You can check our website for the schedule to see replay times. Otherwise, you can watch it on our YouTube channel. Just search for Oshkosh Community Media or go to our website at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org. The last thing in the first half of the show, John, that we want to talk about is a retirement that's happening actually tomorrow for Chief Scott Royal.
Yes, yeah, I'm going to really hate to see him go.
Yeah.
I worked with Scott for a long, long time, and I know he's worked for the city of Oshkosh and the Oshkosh PD for over 30 years. I can safely say, because of my time working with the HR division, that was one of the best hires the city ever made.
Oh, definitely.
Was to hire that guy.
Yeah.
So, I know
30 years with the police department here in Oshkosh. Amazing.
It's just amazing, and I know a lot of people, know him in his role as a chief, but I've got to know him as a coworker and somebody that I respect immensely, super dedicated, and I'm going to hate to see him leave.
Yes.
I really am, but I'm happy for him in his retirement and his family, that he's going to be able to enjoy that.
And I don't think he's actually leaving the city, but so we might even see a familiar
He'll still be
face
around.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, and we'll be in contact with them. But I'm going to miss working with him.
Oh, yeah,
certainly.
Definitely. So he did give an official goodbye for us on camera that we were able to tape for the Beyond the Badge program. So here's just a little snippet of him saying his official goodbye.
It's with mixed emotions. As I end my 34-and-a-half-year career in law enforcement, 30-and-a-half years with the city of Oshkosh, and the past 8-and-a-half as your chief, I've been blessed and honored to serve in that capacity, and I thank everyone for their support in that.
And you can catch this video on Beyond the Badge. It's actually about a 10-minute long speech that he gave, and he went over all kinds of awesome accomplishments. So we can kind of go through them here. It's amazing once you take a look back on his time here, how much has gotten done.
It really is, and he's a kind of person who is he's very modest and humble about everything that he was able to accomplish. And if he were here, he would say that it wasn't just him; it was all the people that he had the opportunity to work with. That's the kind of person that he really is and was in his role as a police chief. I know that he had an opportunity to, because of his long tenure at the PD, work with all kinds of different people. And especially in his role as chief, I know that he was able to establish a good portion of the management team. I know that he worked very closely on the employee culture, and that was very important to him. I know that he also thought it was very important to reach out to external agencies.
Yes, I think
develop
that was
partnerships.
A big goal for him, were those partnerships.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that really was meaningful, and I think enjoyable for the officers too, for them to work with organizations like the Boys and Girls Club and UW Oshkosh. I know we partner with the Community Foundation too, and I think though probably one of his largest accomplishments or his legacy is the implementation of team policing. That was a pretty significant shift in philosophy from where we were to where we are, and there were some growing pains, but I think he's got it established, and I think it not only helps with the policing effort, it really helps with our initiatives in community development, and also trying to break down the city into neighborhoods and focusing on those areas and trying to improve them, make them safer. I think his impact as a police chief will go beyond policing. I think when people look back and take some time to consider the accomplishments and all the work that he put forth.
Definitely. And like you said, it's amazing the impact that the police department has on the creation of neighborhood associations and just building those relationships. While Chief Groyle was in charge here, the mantra "Know us before you need us" came around, and that has just completely taken off. The strategic planning of the police department was a huge thing. Targeting those specific issues in Oshkosh and going after that. The Command and Community Outreach Vehicle.
Right.
That was huge a couple years ago.
Absolutely. It's an extension of that whole idea of humanizing the police department, creating that connection between the police officers and the citizenry. And it wasn't just lip service. He really believed it and kind of put those ideas into action. And I think it was meaningful for the officers to see those accomplishments take place and fully understand that team policing philosophy.
Yes.
So.
And another thing that he was very proud of, and you'll see this in his video of his speech, is that they continue to be a CALEA accredited police agency. And now that's one of only 3 stations in Wisconsin that are CALEA accredited, and also state accredited, which is only 25 police stations or departments in Wisconsin are state accredited.
Absolutely, and if I could just speak to that for a moment, I think the impact of that is, it's difficult to quantify, but I think it's so significant because it will impact our police department like much of the things that Chief Groyle did long after he leaves.
Mm-hmm.
It allowed us to be able to recruit some of the best candidates to become police officers because there's really a desire for people to want to work in a highly professionalized organization like we have here at the City of Oshkosh. And I think it also provided an opportunity for us to recruit his replacement. And those people that looked at our organization, could see that it was structured at the very highest level in a variety of ways. And those standards and the professionalism associated with that accreditation really provided that opportunity, and it just impacts the entire quality of the organization, not only now, but moving forward in the future.
Definitely. So I think Scott Groyle's, his little legacy at the police department will definitely live on. Of course, the latest and greatest are the body-worn cameras, which we'll get into in the agenda, actually. Sure. But we just had to give a little bit of time to Chief Groyle and thank him for all of his time here in Oshkosh.
Absolutely. Can't think of a more dedicated employee that I've worked with over the years. And I'm going to miss him, but I'm happy for him and his family.
Yes, very happy. So we're going to take a quick break here on City Manager's Report. When we return, we will dive into the City Council meeting agenda for Tuesday, January 12th, 2016. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Jim Collins, Transportation Director for the City of Oshkosh with an important message for motorists and bicyclists. Recently, the city has begun painting bike Sharrow symbols on roadways. The term Sharrow is short form for shared lane bicycle marking. Sharrows are made up of bicycle and chevron symbols, and they are located about 4 feet away from the curb where parking is not allowed, and about 11 feet where it is. Streets with Sharrows do not have a designated bike lane, but still indicate that the roadway segment is a bike route and is expected to be used by bicyclists. Sharrow markings are used to show motorists where cyclists will be traveling within the lane, while also showing cyclists proper lane positioning, especially where lanes are too narrow to be safely shared. It's important to note that with or without marked Sharrows, bicyclists are encouraged to travel on streets and follow traffic laws just as any other vehicle on the road. Motorists are urged to continue to be aware of bicyclists and to share the road. Thank you for keeping Oshkosh safe, and happy riding.
Welcome back to City Manager's Report. Thanks again for joining us. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the City Council meeting agenda for Tuesday, January 12, 2016. And once again, John Fitzpatrick, Assistant City Manager, thanks for joining us today and filling in for Mark.
Thank you, Emily. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, so first thing on the agenda we're going to talk about is some introduction of some new city staff. We actually have 3 new people starting this month.
This is kind of a tradition that City Manager Rohloff has implemented, and I think it's a good one. It provides an opportunity for people to know a little bit more about the people that we're hiring and understand their background. And these 3 folks are we're fortunate to be able to hire all 3 of them. Their background is tremendous. I think they're going to bring a lot of good experience to the positions that they're entering.
Definitely. And it's a nice segue, actually. We just got done talking about Chief Groyle's retirement, and Dean Smith, his replacement for the police chief, is on this list.
He is. Dean Smith comes to us from Suffolk, Virginia. He was the assistant chief there, and he has a tremendous amount of experience. If people are familiar with that part of the country, there's a metroplex there of Virginia Beach, Newport News, Suffolk, Norfolk, Virginia. There's a tremendous amount of people that live in that location, and it's very large in terms of land area and land size. So Dean has worked in a variety of contexts. He's got exceptional experience in developing body-worn cameras, and I know we're going to talk about that a little later. We talked a little bit about it. We were talking about the Chief Groyle in the first part.
Mm-hmm.
So he's got that experience. He's got experience with critical incidents. Unfortunately, they have tornadoes. They have hurricanes out there on the East Coast. So he's just got a wealth of experience, and I think he's going to fit in real well.
Yes.
Not only with the staff at the police department, but he worked in a city manager form of government in Suffolk, and I think people are going to enjoy working with him.
Yes, we look forward to working with him. Two other people that are starting, John Ferris, who is actually taking the Public Works Director, James Robbie, his old position.
Exactly. John Ferris is a consultant that has worked with the city of Oshkosh from the private sector for quite a while, and he's got a track record of very unique ideas and strategies in terms of how to deal with stormwater.
Mm-hmm.
He worked collaboratively with us on a lot of our unique stormwater initiatives. So we're familiar with him. He's familiar with us. He's got big shoes to fill, certainly, to move into James' spot as James moved up to become our Public Works Director.
Mm-hmm.
But I think John has a very nice manner about him and a quiet confidence in terms of his experience, and he'll fit in well here in our organization.
Definitely. And then finally, we have Courtney Jenks, who is going to be in your department, John.
She
the new
is.
Human Resources General.
That's
Generalist.
right. That's right. Courtney Jenks is going to be working in our Human Resource Division, and she comes to us from the private sector, but she has some real good experience in terms of employee engagement activity. She's got some lean experience, and the person that was in this position prior to her, Brian Chapman, went on and became a city manager in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
So I know she's very excited about all the responsibilities she'll have in HR, but it really is a position that helps develop our organization, and it's an exciting assignment. So
Definitely.
she's looking forward to that.
Well, we look forward to working with all these people. It's always great to have new people aboard, and I think all three of them are just ready to hit the ground running. So
Absolutely.
make sure you welcome them if we see them
Right,
around.
right.
We're going to move on to item in the consent agenda here, those body-worn cameras that we mentioned earlier. This is to approve the 5-year contract with the cooperative purchase of body-worn cameras for the police department. So maybe you can just quickly get us through the purchase process and maybe some of the policies that we're looking at here.
Sure. Well, this is something that is become really a necessity in the police service. There are so many interactions that take place. They're designed to not only protect the officer, but also the citizenry. Mm-hmm. And I think the technology advanced to a level now where they can really be an aid to make sure that everything is moving smoothly and that we're doing everything we possibly can to help the citizenry. Mm-hmm. So Chief Groyle has worked very hard to try to get us to this point in terms of purchasing these body-worn cameras. I know he's worked very cooperatively with our legal department in purchasing, mm-hmm. and we were able to piggyback on a purchase that had taken place for the city of Milwaukee. Mm. So we're able to, I think, save some money for the citizenry, hold the price over until this next year, so that's going to be helpful. And then I know there's additional work that needs to be done before the body cameras can actually be put into operation.
Yes, there's a lot of work leading up to them actually physically wearing the cameras.
Exactly, right. I know our new police chief, Dean Smith, has got a tremendous amount of experience developing the policies and procedures. Mm-hmm. That was one of his responsibilities when he was in Suffolk, Virginia. He took that program and built it from the ground up. So that's going to be comforting, not only for our citizens, hopefully, but also for our officers, that he's worked through this process. He's conveyed to me that he wants to make sure that he's very thorough, mm-hmm. so everybody feels comfortable with the use of this technology, not only the officers, but everyone in the community as well. So I think it's a wise course of action, taking his time and making sure that we're going to do a good and thorough job with it.
Yes. Well, we look forward to having those, and it's important to note that leading up to the time of them actually physically wearing them, there is a lot of work that goes into it behind it. So,
Absolutely.
It's a little bit of a process. So.
It is.
And I was interested to see the picture of them because I never had actually seen one.
Yeah.
And the shape of them is kind of funny. And then finally when I saw how they're actually worn, I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Right, right.
So it's kind of an interesting, a really cool thing to look forward to.
It is, it is.
Moving on in the agenda, John, we've got quite a few special events on the list here for approval. A couple of them winter events, the Otter Street Fishery on February 5th and 6th, and then Battle on Bago Ice Fishing Tournament February 26th and 27th. We are not quite there with the ice yet, are we?
I don't think so. We were talking about snow earlier, and for people that have lived in this climate for a while, I think they understand that in order to create that real good ice, you really need some cold temperatures, and we just haven't had that to any large degree. And sometimes when you get a large amount of snow at first, it makes it difficult for that ice to form. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that this is going to be able to work out for our ice fisher people that are going to be out there.
I like that, yes. So, and it's also, like you said, it's a good reminder for us to remind residents to be careful if they're out on the ice. Just because it looks like it's okay, it might not be quite all right.
Absolutely, especially in the river areas. I know people sometimes forget that, that's moving water, and that can be treacherous. And we're fortunate to have the partners we do in Otter Street. Once the ice does form, they're a great resource because they help develop roadways, they help mark them, they help plow those roads on Lake Winnebago.
And monitoring it, too.
And
they're
monitoring
constantly
it.
looking at it to make sure it's good.
But I think until we can get to a point where we get some real cold temperatures, we just caution people to be careful.
Yes. So let's move on to the ones that are a little bit warmer to look forward to here in the summer. We've got some events, the Farmers Market, the Saturday Farmers Market, as well as the Wednesday Farmers Market at South Park. The Otter Street Fishing Club also has a walleye tournament with Battle on Bago. It's just an example of how early on people are planning for these events. These are in the summer, and people are coming to them in January here.
They are, and I think in previous programs, I think you and City Manager Rohloff talked about the hiring of our new special events coordinator, Kathy Snell. She's doing a fantastic job, and it's evidenced by this early start to make sure that we get all of our events organized and set up in such a manner where, we can work out all the details and it can be fun and safe for everybody involved. So these are some examples of some very well-run special events. I think everybody loves to go to the farmers market.
Oh, yes.
And maybe since it's snowing a little cold right now, they can keep that in mind.
A little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel.
That's right.
One other fun event that is on the agenda is the Barbecue Fest. We don't have a ton of time to talk about it, so you're just going to have to tune into the council meeting and find out more. But it's a big project for Kathy Snell, like you said. She's been working hard on getting
It's a brand new event, and it's going to be held around the Labor Day area. So we're very excited. We think it's going to be something that's going to be very exciting for the citizens.
Yes. And last on the agenda, John, we have future agenda items is a workshop on Walker's parking study, and that's kind of just a little bit of a preview.
It is. I think we're going to be talking about that on the January 26th meeting, but it's something related to assessing the need for parking in our downtown areas. I think Walker's done a very good job, and more of that information will be shared at that meeting as we go forward.
Wonderful. Well, John, thanks so much for joining us today, covering for Mark. We've got lots to look forward to at the council meeting agenda, and we'll see you there.
All right. Thanks, Emily.
Again, the City Council meeting is this Tuesday, January 12th, 2016 at 6 p.m. You can watch it live on City Cable 10 and on our website at oshkoshcommunitymedia.org. You can also listen to it at 101.9 FM WOCT, which is also online and on the TuneIn Radio app for mobile devices. Don't forget, if you have a question for City Manager Mark Rohloff, you can email it to questionmark@ci.oshkosh.wi.us, and he'll answer it on the next episode of City Manager's Report. Again, thank you so much for joining us for the very first episode of 2016, and we'll see you next time.